County Attorney, Jolene Sanchez, Clerk to the Board Administrator. Ms. Sanchez, would you call the roll of the Board, please?
Commissioner Conti?
Good morning.
Good morning. Commissioner Sharp?
Here.
Commissioner Baker?
Here.
Commissioner Jackson?
Right here.
And Commissioner Holland is not on the line yet, correct?
I believe that's correct. So we'll acknowledge him when he joins the call. And Commissioner Jackson, would you please lead us in the pledge? Sure. Please follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic in which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Mr. Carl, are there any modifications to the agenda this morning?
No, there are no modifications today.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Holland.
Okay. Welcome, Commissioner Holland.
Sorry I was late. I move that we adopt the agenda for today.
Motion made by Commissioner Holland, seconded by Commissioner Baker. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. This is a time during our meeting where we take citizen comments. Is there anyone on the line who would like to make a comment on anything that is not on the agenda? That would include our two public hearings this morning. Is there anything other than those two public hearings? And you'll need to press *3 to unmute. Okay, hearing no one, I'll close the public comment period and move on to approval of the minutes. We have two minutes that we need to approve today. One was May 26, 2020, and Commissioner Holland was absent and excused. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, this is Jeff. I'll make the motion to approve those minutes.
And I'll second. Nancy Jackson. Okay, thank you. Motion made by Commissioner Baker, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Commissioner Holland abstains. I wasn't there.
Thank you, Commissioner Holland. So we have one abstention and approved, so that those minutes are approved, the 26th. And our second set of minutes were from June 2nd, 2020. We had a full board. Entertain a motion.
I move we approve it. Go ahead.
And I will move approval of those minutes.
I'll second that motion. Commissioner Holland.
Motion made by Commissioner Conti, seconded by Commissioner Holland. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We have our consent agenda, and there were no modifications to the consent agenda this morning. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Baker. I'll move to approve the items on the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Holland. I second that motion.
Thank you. Motion made by Commissioner Baker, seconded by Commissioner Holland. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. We have two general business items this morning. And just a reminder for those from the public, when I open the public hearing part of the meeting, you'll need to press *3 to unmute. Our first public hearing is PM 18-002, Cherry Tree Estates Minor Subdivision. Our presenter is Molly Orkill Larson, Senior Planner, Public Works and Development. Our attorney is Senior Assistant County Attorney Robert Hill. And Mr. Hill, would you set the foundation, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is Robert Hill, Senior Assistant County Attorney. This is an application for a minor subdivision. It's a public hearing, and it has been noticed by mailing adjacent properties, posting the property, and publication of the notice of the hearing in the village or newspaper. The board has jurisdiction to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Orchard Larson, would you go ahead and do the presentation, please?
Good morning, Commissioners. Molly Orchard Larson, Senior Planner with the Public Works Department. What is before you is the Cherry Tree Estates minor subdivision. This application is for the approval of the creation of a 10.65 acre lot situated in the 4 square mile area east of South Quebec Street and south of East Iowa Avenue. And Cherry Creek is also situated to the southwest of the parcel. This property does have some history that I'd like to review with you briefly. In 2016, the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners approved a preliminary development plan of the property for a 55-year-old and older community with memory care residential and single-family attached residential for independent seniors. After the preliminary development plan was approved, the applicant focused on cleaning up the parcel. As you remember, the subject site was a landfill for a number of years. The applicant worked with CDPHE to clean up the property, and CDPHE has provided staff with a letter stating that the site is no longer contaminated and can be developed, and that occurred during the specific development plan. This concept was further refined in 2018 when the applicant submitted a specific development plan. The Planning Commission approved the specific development plan in 2019 for 7 memory care units. Now these units look more like a single-family residential house, 1 story, and 45 townhomes for independent seniors. The plat is before us today for review, and the applicant also has an administrative site plan that the staff is reviewing as we speak. Vicinity map was provided to you for this hearing and is also in the staff report. As you can see, the subject property is landlocked and surrounded by the city and county of Denver. To resolve this issue, the applicant submitted a transportation engineering plan, also known as a TEP, to the city requesting access onto Quebec and Colorado Avenue. The city has approved these access permits for this project and has been included in your packet. The cash in lieu fees for this application is $93,750, comprised of $90,000 for parks and $3,750 for other public purposes. Since this project doesn't generate any students, the school district did not request a fee. The cash in lieu fees for park purpose is to be used to construct the Cherry Creek Trail adjacent to this property. And Roger is on the line, and if you have more details on that project and the upgrade of that creek corridor, he can go into more detail for you. Staff did receive an email in opposition of the project, which was forwarded on to you last night. The items of concern in this email were topics discussed and resolved at the time of preliminary development plan and the specific development plan. Staff also received an email from Lisa Foreman last night regarding the plat, which you should have a copy of also. Her questions were in regards to ownership and access, a condition of approval, and project / construction timing. Staff is recommending approval as the subdivision complies with the zoning and final plat requirements. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions at this time, I'm happy to answer them. And also we have Sarah White and, as I mentioned, Roger Harvey on the line that are also available for questions. The applicant is due to call in, and he did state he would want to review the project with you further today. So That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Orkild Larson from the commissioners?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you. It's a little awkward when we're not together and, seeing the screen with the presentation and all of that. But this is a particularly, I'll call it an odd little parcel, little isolated triangle. In fact, we used to call it the triangle. And when I was running for office and getting a tour of the area, I was told that this area would never be developed and it would forever be the sort of mysterious 4 square mile triangle. And they have put someone has put in an enormous amount of work in cleaning up the landfill, because I remember getting calls about how smelly it was when they were disturbing the land. And now it has been declared clean by CDPHE. Can you, or is there someone on staff, talk to us a little bit about the cleaning up process, and perhaps just a little bit about the egress entrance transportation issue, because those two issues were the reasons that I'm going to put everybody in quotes. Virtually, most people thought that piece of land would never be used. So can you talk to those two things, or have someone just go into a little bit of detail, because it's interesting and germane to the approval of this project.
Commissioner Jackson, this is Molly Orkild Larson. The cleanup, I can speak a little bit about that, and if Tim Van Meter is available or online, could go into more detail. He's the applicant. I know that they spent a good summer digging out, and I think into the fall, but Tim can clarify that, digging out that site and removing the soil and the debris that was in that area. So I think that's why you're probably getting comments from the public on that, because I guess there were some things that were smelly. So I'll leave it at that and see if Tim can chime in. I'll go on mute. I'll mute myself and see if Tim can step in and talk a little bit more. And then I can get back on and at least talk a little bit about the access to the property, and then maybe Sarah White can go into more detail on the access.
Yep. Tim, would you like to go ahead and please introduce yourself, your name and address for the record, please?
Hello? Can you hear us?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Oh.
We hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, no.
Hello?
Yeah,
Morning.
Good morning. Can you hear us?
Okay. Good morning. This is the applicant.
Hello, can you hear us?
We can.
Okay, great. Sorry.
So do we have everybody at the commissioners meeting, you can hear me? I am Tim Van Meter.
Welcome, Tim, and we can hear you. Just please state your address for the record.
819 Tin Cup Terrace, Bailey, Colorado, 80421.
Okay, Tim, why don't you go ahead? And if anyone else would be presenting on your team, if they would just introduce themselves as well with name and address. Thanks, but go ahead, Tim. We can hear you.
Well, thank you for your consideration today for our minor subdivision approval. This has been a long journey for a complex parcel. And I'm going to get to the questions, the two items that were asked real quickly here. Last year, we obtained a recorded easement for access It was issued and recorded in early 2020. Prior to that, the City and County of Denver had issued a traffic engineering plan that allowed me access from the east and from the west, and we went based on that. We thought that that was irrevocable and would just be renewed every 2 years until I built the driveways, and then it would become permanent. Denver changed the rules on us, and we had to apply for a full-blown easement, which then the engineering went through for that. It took about 10 months to get that through the City of Denver, through the City Council, and through the Mayor's office. Of course, there were legal parties involved, but that was issued, and I bought and paid for that in early 2020, and it's duly recorded. So I have access, irrevocable access from the east and from the west. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. Correct. So the whole access issue has been, for once and for all, been solved and put to bed. Do we have any questions about the access? Molly said that this was still a TEP, and the traffic engineering plan as originally designed by the engineers is still in effect. That is the driveway that we're going to build from the east and from the west. Going out on the western side of the property, it will be right in, right out only, and it will be gated at both ends of the property. So nothing has changed on that. Legally, we're not operating just under a TEP. We are operating under a full, legally recorded easement that will go with the property in perpetuity.
Thank you. Yeah. Go ahead, Commissioner Jackson.
Have you, this is Nancy Jackson, have you done a traffic study, or is one going to be done? I think one of the concerns of the neighbors is increased traffic in that area. Of course, anytime you build something, it does increase traffic, but have you done that study at all, or is that in the next step?
I'm going to ask Kevin Roth of Roth Engineering, who's sitting here in the room with me, to maybe speak to that maybe in more detail. But in fact, there was a full-blown traffic study performed and was submitted with the, I believe, with the SDP. And that traffic study indicated that based on the type of residence and the type of housing that I'm providing here, there would be a negligible increase in traffic. Versus if I were to build an apartment complex or any other housing development, my residents are typically without a car. They have Alzheimer's or dementia. That's what will be in those memory care buildings. They don't drive. We're fortunate to be located right on an RTD bus line, so many of my staff members do not drive. They take the bus to work at my current facility. So, again, when that traffic engineering study was done, and then I believe it was reviewed a second time, again, the findings of that engineer was that this would be a negligible effect on traffic in the area.
Thank you. Commissioner Jackson, does that answer your question, or would you like a little more information from the consultant?
I think that's enough for now. As we go through this, there may be more questions, but at this point, I'm pretty familiar with it, so thank you. Maybe some of the other commissioners have.
What about the landfill?
I'll come up to the landfill right now. Any other questions on access or traffic? Don't believe so? I'll move right on into the landfill. I bought the property in May of 2008, and I knew at that time that there were 31 wells placed on the property by the Colorado Department of Health. And those wells were monitoring the water quality and the air quality, any air such as methane coming out of those wells. And those were being monitored by the Colorado Department of Health. Of the 31 wells, not one well ever showed any water quality issues in the groundwater. The groundwater is 26 feet deep right there, and it was measured several times by my environmental engineer, Stonegate Land and Water, monitored that water quality, and there never was an issue with water quality. There were 16 wells basically south of the power lines that were producing, in some cases, 500 to 1,000% of the lower explosive level of methane. And the neighbors had lived with that since 1968 when that dump was covered over and capped. And it just continued to percolate with all that debris buried out there. Because of our low moisture content that comes down here in Colorado, and the fact that this was a sealed from air getting into it, that would have gone on forever. It never would have changed. We made the decision in 2016 to apply for a Colorado Department of Health issued a revolving loan to me for $2.4 million. We used that money. We closed on that loan in January of 2017, and we finished in June of 2016. We hauled out 4,064 semi-loads of debris from that area south of the power lines. The whole time that took place, we were monitored by the environmental agencies in Arapahoe County and in Denver County. I had an environmental engineer on site every day that any material was taken out. He was there monitoring dust and air quality. I had a certified asbestos inspector who inspected every truckload. Every time we opened up a new area, he was plowing through that with a rake looking for asbestos. And we also have, because of our proximity to 4300 South Cherry Creek Drive, which is where the Colorado Department of Health is at, I had frequent visits from their liaison from the Department of Health, who monitored our big dig. When we were finished, there was very little, if any. We could have put the asbestos in a bucket. There just wasn't any material out there that we found with asbestos. There was no volatile organic chemicals. There was very innocuous dig. We found lots of grass clippings, newspaper, tree branches, some construction debris, but not a lot. And in the 1960s, we did not use a lot of plastic, so there was very little plastic even found out there. We did find grass clippings that were still green that had been placed there in the 1960s, but sealed up and in a vault with no water. They just retained that. We found tons of newspaper that had been dumped over the edge of that Cherry Creek embankment that was still very, very legible, maybe a little brown around the edge, but the newspaper itself, in many cases, was still intact. Where water did get to that newspaper or to that organic debris, there was a rotting going on, and that's what was creating the methane. Those wells were all excavated, and from north to south, east to west, that 10.6 acres was cleansed of any trash. We went down 16 feet underneath the current level of underneath the grade level. Again, we hauled out 4,064 semi-loads of debris. We hauled that out to the Denver Aurora dump site, and we brought back in clean, engineer-approved soil for backfill. And then I believe it was in September of 2017 that the Colorado Department of Health issued their letter of no further action or letter of determination of no further action, depending on how you read that. It used to be the letter of no further action. So we are cleansed.
That is fascinating. Thank you very much for that explanation.
I will tell you this just in review. The access has been upgraded from a TEP to a full easement. The floodplain issues have been resolved with the adoption of the clomer. So our access over and through that floodplain area, that has also been resolved. I've owned the property for 12 years. There have been no citations or infractions of county regulations. There have been a multitude of phone calls to county officials complaining about the work that's going on out there. And to that, I can say that the citizens who are my neighbors no longer live by a dump. And the construction that will take place there will be done in a professional manner. And we'll put in a low-impact senior housing community. I have the support of the 4 Square Mile Homeowners Association. I think they've written that, they've put that in writing. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say that.
Are there any additional questions? Thank you. Just wanted to see if are there any additional questions from the commissioners?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Baker.
Yeah. I have a comment and then a question for Molly, really, not for the applicant. Comment possibly for the applicant is that I've in my time as a facilities person, I've worked with CDPHE on landfills, on underground storage tanks or BOCs, and I have to say, I think this is the first time I've seen anything from the CDPHE saying that it's being cleansed, saying that it's suitable. I've worked with them before to remediate underground storage tanks, and it was difficult. They were stringent. They were fussy. They were picky. They did their job. In some ways, I felt they had overdid their job. But I think this is the first time I've ever seen a property being blessed by, I don't know that they're blessing it, but saying that a landfill, a former landfill, has been totally cleaned up. So I find that remarkable. And then secondly, my question for Molly is, I think we received some questions about, this is a 55 and older community, and therefore the schools weren't requesting any cash in lieu payments or any of the normal payments that a development would pay for the schools. But there was a question raised by one of the citizens that said, what if this changes? And I don't know what the process is if a over 55 and a 55 and over community has changed before in the past, or what our rules say about if a development turns condo or starts allowing younger than 55 to move in. Does that change that requirement? How do we monitor that?
Well, if they do, this is Molly Ortiz-Larson, senior planner. If there is changes in that community, or where it's no longer just 55 years and older, then they would have to, and allowing children, they would have to go through the zoning process again, looking at what would be allowed, and there would have to be a request submitted and reviewed by staff and go in front of the boards. So there would be a process. There is a condition of approval that is outlined in the motions, stating that it would be put on the plat that if this does change, then the school district would have a chance to reevaluate the cash in lieu for a new project, basically. I'm sorry, did that answer your question, or was there more to it?
It sure does, Molly. Thank you very much. And I have no further questions. Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Foley.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a comment. I certainly share Jeff's comments about what a great effort was made to clean the site up, and I just want to commend the company. In addition, I want to also reflect on the commitment that have to helping our aging citizens and the growing need for facilities like this. I think it's a great effort to enhance our capabilities of helping those elderly people in need of memory care and a nice facility to live in and be associated with other people of their age. So I just want to commend the developer and on those two issues, and I would certainly be supporting this project.
Well, we're going to, let me see if there are any other questions from commissioners for either Molly or for the applicant. And I still want to go ahead to our public comment. I know we have I think we have a couple of people who would like to testify. So are there any other questions from the board members? Or commissioners, sorry. Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing part of this meeting for this agenda item, which is Cherry Tree Estates Minor Subdivision PM 18-002, and entertain anyone who would like to speak on this issue. And just remember *3, and you'll have 3 minutes for your comments. Please state your name and address for the record, and then start your comments.
Commissioners, sorry, we do have someone. I'm trying to take them live now. Hang on. Hi, can you please go ahead?
Hear me?
We can, Mark. Why don't you go ahead and state we've already said your name, Mark, but your address for the record? Thank you.
Yes, I'm Mark Lampert. I'm here representing Foursquare Mile, address 9022 East Colorado Drive, unincorporated Arapahoe County. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I miss all of you in person, as this pandemic situation has presented itself in many ways, and this is certainly a very unique way that we see forth in approving our plans. It's hard to see things when you can't see the big screen, but again, we appreciate the patience and willingness of Tim Van Meter and his team to clean up the site and take something that no one wanted to touch into something that will become an asset to the Foursquare Mile area. We have worked with Tim Van Meter from the early onset of his ownership, and he has kept us informed all along the way. He has presented to the Foursquare Mile monthly meetings over the years when even the Denver neighbors were allowed to speak and be heard. As you have seen in our stated July 17, 2018 letter, we are in full support of this project, and as we have worked out many of the issues such as height and the gating of that is what we felt were true assets in getting this approval from the Foursquare Mile area. So again, on behalf of the Foursquare Mile area, this has been talked about over many, many years. We're finally glad to see this come, and we look forward to construction to start as soon as possible. Thank you all for your attendance on this, and I look forward to your support on this case.
Thank you, Mark. Michelle, do we have anyone else who would like to testify?
We have none at this time. We have none at this time, Commissioner.
Okay. Okay, we have no one else. I will close the public comment period of our for this particular item. Are there any further questions for Molly or the applicant at this point from the commission? Okay, hearing none, entertain a motion.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Jackson, go ahead.
Yes, and I want to thank Mark Lampert for speaking up for the 4 Square Mile group. I will just say that I miss those meetings too. It's hard when we don't get to see each other in person. I also agree that this is a remarkable project that took diligence and amazing hard work and persistence. And so with that being said, I would like to move that in the case of PM 18002, Cherry Tree Estates Minor Subdivision, the County Commissioners have reviewed the staff report, including all exhibits and attachments, and have listened to the applicant's presentation and any public comment that was presented at the public hearing. I thereby move to approve this application based on the findings in the staff report, subject to the following conditions. 1, prior to the signature of the final copy of this plat, the applicant must address public works staff comments and concerns. 2, cash in lieu fees in the amount of $93,750, comprised of $90,000 for parks and $3,750 for other public purposes, shall be paid prior to recording of the approved MyLAR for the minor subdivision. 3, since this proposed subdivision was intended for a restricted 55 and older community and memory care facility, the development is not expected to generate significant demand on school facilities. As such, no cash in lieu of dedication payments are required for school purposes. However, if the 55 years of old age restriction in the development, I want to amend that to just 55 years of age, not old age. 55 years age restriction in the development is ever removed, the developer or the then owner of the development will be required to pay school cash in lieu fees in accordance with the then applicable provisions of the state law and or county regulations. This condition of approval shall also be added as a note to the plat. The cash in lieu fees for park purposes shall be used to construct the Cherry Creek Trail adjacent to the Cherry Tree Estates development. And 5, the applicant shall add an easement table to the plat. Then I ask for a second.
Madam Chair, this is Jeff, and Commissioner Baker, and I'll second that motion.
A motion made by Commissioner Jackson, seconded by Commissioner Baker. Any further discussion? Since we're doing this virtually, Ms. Sanchez, would you call the roll of the board, please?
Commissioner Conti?
I'm sorry, not call the roll. Call the vote by Commissioner.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Conti?
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Holman?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. And I will add, this is Nancy Sharp, I will add my thanks. I think the cleanup of the site and what you did, Mr. Van Meter, was remarkable and helps all those residents in that area, not just this development. So thanks very much, and I know we all wish you good luck with the project. Okay, we will move on to our second public hearing, which is Arapahoe County Cultural Council 2020-2021 SCFD Tier 3 recommendations. Our presenter will be Danny Stash, Business Associate Community Resources. We also have Marilyn Cross, Chair of our Arapahoe County Cultural Council, on the line. And I want to thank you and your group immensely for the tremendous amount of work that you all have done. And as we move into this presentation, our attorney on this matter is Tiffany Blue, Senior Assistant County Attorney. Ms. Blue, would you state the foundation, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This meeting has been noticed as required by state statute, and you heard, and the public was given an opportunity to comment on it. It was also heard in study session yesterday. So you are good to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blue. Ms. Bash, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. My name is Danny Bash, and I'm here with the Cultural Council Chair, Marilyn Cross. We are pleased to present to you the 2020 SCFD Tier 3 funding recommendations for Arapahoe County. The funding plan is a product of the countless volunteer hours spent by all council members, and at the June 22nd study session, the Board of County Commissioners considered the SCFD Tier 3 funding plan and was recommended for public hearing. SCFD Tier 3 funding supports local art, cultural, scientific, and historical organizations that benefit Arapahoe County citizens. This year, 80 general operating requests and 36 project requests were received. Because of COVID-19, this year's applicant interviews were canceled, but allowed organizations to answer questions via email. Specifically, questions about the impact of COVID-19 on the organization were asked and considered. The total grant funds available to Arapahoe County for distribution in 2020 is $1,706,644.04. The funds are derived from 0.1% of sales tax collected in Adams, Arapahoe, Boulder, Broomfield, Denver, Douglas, and Jefferson counties. It was noted in the June 22nd study session that Arapahoe County funds are distributed to organizations outside of the county, but according to current application requirements, these organizations do serve Arapahoe County citizens. By request of the Commissioners, the Council will continue to keep the BOCC informed of the status of our grant-funded organizations and the creative ways they continue to serve the community under social distance requirements. This concludes my part of the presentation. Marilyn, if you would like to comment, but that is all I have for you.
Thank you, Ms. Bash. Ms. Cross, would you like to go ahead?
Okay, this is Marilyn Cross, 14097 East Hamilton Drive. I am the chair of the Arapahoe County Cultural Commission. And I just want to basically say that what Danny said is true, that we did look at all of the organizations and carefully considered their grant requests and came up with this final funding plan. And they offer a lot to Arapahoe County citizens, and we're very proud of what they do for the citizens of Arapahoe County.
Thank you, Ms. Cross.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. This is Nancy Sharp. I do have one question, and I apologize when we were talking yesterday that I didn't ask this. I didn't catch it. But I was thinking that our budget was 1.6, and I think, Ms. Bash, you said it was and I don't have the number right in front of me, but you said it was 1.7, the total grant. Can you clarify that for me?
Sure. So the total that was available was recommended for allocation is 1.7. So 1,706,644 was the total that was recommended for the funding plan.
But we're allocating. I'm sorry, I should have asked this yesterday, but we're allocating 1.6 even though the ask was 1.7, or is the allocation 1.7?
The allocation is 1.7. It may be that the 1.6, and Marilyn, chime in if I'm misunderstood, but that's the 2020 total allocation from this year, but there were uncommitted funds from the previous year that brought us to the total of 1.7.
Okay.
You are correct, Danny.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. That I just have the 1.6 in my head from so many years, and I did not ask that question yesterday. So, okay, great. Well, thank you very much. That clears that up. Commissioners, any questions?
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Conti.
Yes. I was wondering if for my confirmation, and for the just for the record, and for anyone who might be listening now or in the future, if you could go into just a little short thing on Tier 3 recommendations, and what type of organizations are dealt with in Tier 3 versus Tier 2 or Tier 1. Okay, so, okay, go ahead, Danny.
No, go ahead, Marilyn.
Unfortunately, we don't have our SCFD liaison, and she speaks very well of what Tier 3 is. Tier 1 are the big organizations, and they're, by the whole SCFD funding, they're the ones that, like the Art Museum and the Museum of Nature and Science, that have a certain amount of money that they get. And then Tier 2 are organizations that have a reach throughout the entire district and serve almost equally all of the counties. And Tier 3 was really meant for each of the counties. And as Danny said, it was 1/10 of 1%, I think, for what we get. And so then the Tier 3 funds are given to each county, and each county has their cultural commission that determines how those are going to be funded. So the Tier 3 organizations apply for the grants, and then it's determined by county how those organizations get, how much money they get for their grants. And so we really try to focus in Arapahoe County on those organizations that are serving primarily Arapahoe County residents. And then in the Tier 3 funding, they do have projects, and the projects would be a specific one-time event, or maybe over a weekend or something like that will really focus on something for Arapahoe County. And Tier 3 includes not just performing arts, but it also includes things like community gardens or scientific things, and sometimes it's open space, like we fund the Plains Conservation Center and some things with the South Suburban. But all Tier 3 organizations do apply to the SCFD district, and they're found eligible for the funding based on their criteria. And then they can apply to all the counties, or just one county, or several counties. And so we give out the funds based on the grants. We had over $2 million of grant requests, and so it's hard to narrow it down. But every year we get more requests than we have money for. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Yeah, were there other questions from commissioners? Okay. Okay, hearing none, I am going to open up, this is a public hearing, so I'm going to open up the hearing for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to, on the line, who would like to comment during this, on this Cultural Council 2020-2021 SCFD Tier 3 on the SCFD Tier 3 recommendations? And remember, *3 to unmute. I'm not hearing anyone, so I'll close the public hearing, public comment part to this public hearing. And are there any other questions for our presenters from the commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Is there a commissioner who would like to make a motion?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Holland.
Thank you. Yeah, I move that we accept the recommendations of the Cultural Council for the disbursement of funds and authorize the disbursement of the funds. I don't have the formal resolution here.
The motion is on the second to last page of the packet.
Don't have it available on my computer for some reason. I'll just refer to someone who can read it.
This is Commissioner Conti. I've been trying to open it up, but I cannot get mine to open up either. I don't know why.
Madam Chair, this is Tiffany Borgen. Would you like me to read the proposed motion?
That would be great. Thank you very much. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
I've got it right here. It's short. I move to approve the recommendations of the Arapahoe County Cultural Council for the distribution of $1,706,644.04 in 2020 and 2021 Scientific and Cultural Facilities District Tier 3 grant funding.
Second. Commissioner Jackson and Commissioner Holland. Appreciate that as a second. Any further questions? Ms. Sanchez, would you hold the board, please?
Commissioner Conti?
Yes.
Commissioner Sharp?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Holland?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And we will move on to commissioner comments. Are there any commissioner comments today? Okay, hearing none. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Marilyn, for all of your great work and your council's work on the SCFD recommendations. And have a great day, everyone. Thanks very much.